indeed, creativity means somehow trying to go out of the norms and doing things in a special way to actually change lives. And that's the quote you saw there. You just need to be very creative. Think out of the box, but somehow don't break the rules. You can go out of the rules, but don't break the rules. You find a common way around, and a softer, a better ground to do all of this. My name is E. Harold. Is the much expected day, June 11, just a day before the June 12. And like Osaronami and I told you earlier before, tomorrow is quite historic for the West African sub-region, for Nigeria as the biggest player in the West African sub-region, as well as the world, when President King of North Korea will be meeting Big Brother Donald John Trump at Sentosa. Wonderful, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the world, in Singapore. They'll be meeting tomorrow. They're already on ground now, and they will meet tomorrow, discuss and see how best to bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. Well away from those international talk and politics, it's time to talk aviation. You know, Big Brother Godike will tell you that, hey, the plane is a faithful machine. It's just that humans are not faithful. And when you see a plane fall off the sky, they are all within human error. But this morning, you know, before we've looked at a cockpit, a cockpit rule and everything, but this morning, the man on the screen there with that nice passport photograph, let me call it photograph here, Mr. Godwin N.E.K. will be discussing with me as usual. We put those things because he believed that the dialogue shouldn't just end within the studio here. You can reach him on the phone numbers on the screen there. You can follow him through on the email. You can talk with, send him a mail on his email, godike@yahoo.com. You can go to his website, check here at aviationfreaks.com. You can visit the YouTube channel, check some of the videos you missed here, as well as tweet to him at Aviation Freaks. We've discussed with him in the last 2 episodes, sterile cockpit rule, part 1 and 2, but today I want to look at somewhat still within the cockpit here, because that's the engine room, that's the brain, that's what pulls the plane here. Wonderful morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Nata.
Good morning. How's the weekend?
Wonderful, as always.
Thank you. Somehow.
And you?
Well, we'll talk politics through the weekend.
I know.
Talking politics.
That is what is raging.
This morning we're talking
That's
politics.
what's raging in Nigeria at the moment.
But now,
I must tell you, the country is doing well now. We're really on the path to development and on the path to greatness. I must tell you that.
Okay, if Mr. Godike is saying that, we agree with him. Now, this morning we're looking at cockpit resource management.
Yes, cockpit resource management. As a matter of fact, a couple of accidents, excuse me, in the past show that the reason those accidents happened was because crew, and I'm talking about captain, his first officer, flight engineer, and attendants, were doing their thing without, a coordinated way of communicating. And again, at the time in aviation, captains were seen as alpha and omega. Say it all, do it all, in the cockpit. Anything they said, even if it was in error, was like a word from heaven. The authority was awesome. A captain could be making a fatal mistake, and he's a very intelligent first officer, would notice that a mistake was going on, and he was not in the position to say, hey, my captain, there's a mistake. Can we do this or do that? Until they end up ditching and slaughtering everyone. So the cockpit resource management sought to retrain all the people to know how to communicate, to challenge superiors when they're making mistakes, and
challenge or correct. Let's not use the word challenge.
Challenge and correct. For instance, let me give you for example, a captain may find himself under threat. Maybe he ran into a microburst shortly after taking off, and then begin to struggle with the airplane, and out of reflex pulls on his joystick and sends the airplane into a high angle of attack that will cause a stall and ultimate fallout of the sky. And an intelligent first officer notices that, say, oh, Captain, you can do this. You can do this. Push down, reduce your pitch. In the past, There was no chance for that first officer to so scream at his captain. But today, cockpit resource management.
Okay, let's go ahead.
So if we just go to clip 1, we'll be able to take it from there.
Okay, that's
here we go, Arthur. Definition and purpose of CREW Cockpit Resource Management, fondly known as CRM. CRM is defined as a set of trainings required in environments where human errors are likely to occur and cause unacceptable damages. For purposes of ensuring air safety, CRM is tailored to improving interpersonal communication, leadership, and decision-making in the cockpit of an airplane. The CRM training formally commenced as a fallout from the investigation of the crash of United Airlines Flight 173 by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, fondly known as NTSB. Let's run quickly to clip 2.
That's clip 2 there.
Yes, summary of United Airlines Flight 173 crash.
Okay.
Let's see what happened there and then why it became necessary to set up, the CRM. United Airlines Flight 173 was a scheduled flight from John F. Kennedy JFK International Airport in New York to Portland International Airport in Portland, Oregon, USA. The flight, which had a scheduled stop in Denver, Colorado, took place on December 28, 1978. The plane ran out of fuel and crashed in suburban Portland neighborhood, close to
40 years ago.
Yes, close to Northeast 158th Avenue and East Bonsai Street. That's where the plane fell, in that neighborhood. The crew of the flight consisted of highly experienced Captain Malborn McBroom, who was 52, First Officer Roderick Beebe, 45, and Flight Engineer Forrest Mendenhall. He was aged 41. Those were the three in the cockpit on that fateful day. Captain M. McBroom had been with the airline for 27 years and was one of its most senior and highly experienced pilots with more than 27,600 flying hours. That's not a mean thing. It's not a mean job. 27,600 flying hours the man had put in before that fatal error of that day. Let's move to clip 3 quickly and see what happened.
That's clip 3.
Right. The summary of the Flight 173 crash continues. On approach to Portland for landing, the plane experienced a rough drop of its landing gears, which caused an abnormal vibration. Yaw, you know what we mean when you talk about yaw, when the plane has to move horizontally left or right. That is a yaw. So it caused abnormal vibration, yaw of the aircraft, and lack of indicator light showing that the landing gear successfully lowered and locked. Now, normally, when you're coming into land at a certain level, especially if you're on auto, the landing gear, lowers and then gets locked in an open position, ready for landing. That's a green light on the cockpit that tells the pilot that, listen, this is set, all is set, that you've got the landing gear lowered and it's locked. So it's not a question of when you touch down, everything collapses. No, it's in place. Unfortunately, because of the sudden, slight mechanical failure that led to sudden drop of the landing gear, the switch, that's a micro switch that will send that signal to the cockpit to show that all was well, got broken. And so even though the landing gear opened successfully, locked successfully, but he didn't inform the pilot that
the indicator was not coming up.
no, and so the pilot, the man was confused, and out of prudence, he decided to abort the landing. But guess what happened next?
Let's go ahead.
Then the landing successfully lowered and locked. Captain Mike Bruin prudently aborted the landing in order to diagnose the problem. For over an hour of executing a holding pattern, you remember I taught you about holding pattern where you have to run 360 degrees.
VIP landing. VIP landing.
That's correct, very correct. So for over an hour of executing a holding pattern while the landing gear problem was being diagnosed, the entire crew members got so carried away that no one checked the fuel situation. They were all buried in, trying to figure out, whether the landing gear was, in place and safe to touch down and stuff, that everybody forgot that they were running out of fuel. And they were busy running 360 degrees in the skies, all concentrated on dealing with that. Nobody was able to call the captain's attention. Hey, Captain, watch your fuel. We may have to engage in emergency landing, if necessary, land on our belly, because the fuel situation is becoming critical, and we have so much distance to make to the runway. And so please, abort this holding pattern, and let's go, and believe God will touch down safely. That would have really been a sane, nice landing, because in actual sense, the undercarriage that is, was in place, but no signal showed on the cockpit because of the micro switch that broke off and couldn't send that signal to give the green light. But they went on without noticing. So the fuel situation was not checked by anyone then, leading to fuel exhaustion. And
that means the fuel got finished.
Yes, and engine flame out. So those engines flamed out because they were starved of fuel. The plane crashed, killing 10 passengers and injuring 24 others out of the 189 passengers and crew on board. No, out of there were a total of 189 passengers and crew.
10 died.
10 died, and 24 were injured. The others came out without injuries.
So
yes, well, the captain survived, but his first officer and the flight engineer lost their lives in that crash. Yeah. So NTSB investigators concluded that a better cockpit resource management could have averted that crash. You see how this cockpit resource management came about. It was this particular crash in 1978 that brought about it. Let's run quickly to clip 4.
Okay, clip 4 quickly. Clip 4, okay.
Yeah, here we go. National Aeronautics, we're talking about now the concept of cockpit resource management. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, psychologist John Lauber, who had studied communication processes in cockpits for several years, coined the name cockpit resource management in 1979. Remember that crash took place in 1978. A year after, this John Lauber, who's a psychologist working for NASA. Incidentally, you must know at this time in question, my immediate elder brother was an engineer in NASA as well.
That's good.
Right. Why retaining a command hierarchy? Now, talking about the concept. Why retaining a command hierarchy? The concept was aimed at fostering a less authoritarian cockpit culture. Did you hear that?
Correct.
Less authoritarian cockpit culture. The culture in cockpit used to be authoritarian, but not anymore. Where co-pilots were encouraged to question captains if they observed them making mistakes. In the past, you didn't dare question your captain even if he was making mistakes.
He was the commander-in-chief.
He was the commander-in-chief. Obey the last order, but not anymore. That's part of what the cockpit resource management is seeking to teach crew. The 1977 Tenerife airport disaster produced the CREW resource management. Can you see why we have it now as CREW in bracket cockpit resource management? Because the CREW one, first of all, was the cockpit. Now the CREW one came up. You remember we dealt with the Tenerife airport. You remember that crash right on the runway? Because the co-pilot was telling his captain, hey, we haven't been clear. And the captain said, okay, you find it, while he was busy pushing on his power to take off. Along the runway, he slammed into a plane that was yet to get out of the way and slaughtered 583 souls, the highest known in aviation up until this day. All right, so the 1977 Tenerife airport disaster produced the CREW resource management. In this case, the two 747 Boeing jets crashed on the runway due to lack of consensus between the two pilots of KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. 583 lives were lost in that crash. By the 1990s, cockpit or CREW resource management, that CRM, became a global standard employed to provide another layer of enhanced communication and teamwork, which will lead to increased air safety. Okay, so clip 5 very quickly, so I can have 2 more clips and let's see if we can go from here.
Provided by CRM.
Skills provided by CRM. CRM is primarily aimed at providing enhanced situational awareness, self-awareness, leadership, assertiveness, decision-making, flexibility, adaptability, event and mission analysis, and communication. These are what, training people in CRM. I don't know if we've been doing, if NCAA has been doing this for airlines.
Well, you don't find that during your last workshop, you asked them.
Well,
you have to ask them, you are with them, you spend time with them, you had some days with them. You should have asked them, are we looking at how the cockpit runs there, or are we just looking at generally and forgetting the engine room when we're off the sky?
Be sure my packaging is set, and maybe on Thursday we'll be holding a meeting. We must give the best to aviation. I'm looking forward to it. 10 years straight, no incident, no crash, no matter how slight. It's achievable because this machine is awesome and very faithful. If we can train ourselves to match the faithfulness of these airplanes, never. We will not fall out of the skies. So let's move on. Having said that, in a nutshell, CRM aims to foster a culture where authority may be respectfully questioned. Did you hear that? CRM is fostering a culture where authority may be respectfully questioned. So you can question your boss, but do it respectfully. The principle of CRM is recognizing that a discrepancy between what is happening and what should be happening is a red flag, indicating that an error is occurring. This is very, very important for people to take in, that the principle of CRM is recognizing that a discrepancy between what is happening and what should be happening is a red flag, indicating that an error is occurring. The training is simply teaching supervisors and subordinates appropriate communication techniques that will equip them to understanding that questioning of authority need not be threatening. And subordinates understand the correct way to question others. So you can actually question the order of your boss, but you must know the correct way to do it. That's what CRM teaches you. So there's a lot to learn.
Clip 6.
Clip 6, and after that, 7 when we're done. And then we'll just be looking at photographs.
Okay, 5 steps.
5-step assertive statement process. That is to, how you want to engage your boss when you want to question his order. A CRM expert named Todd Bishop developed a 5-step assertive statement process that encompasses inquiry and advocacy steps. Number 1, opening or attention getter. if you want to talk to your boss, I don't know if this agrees with the culture and tradition in this part of the world, but Todd Bishop is saying is that this, number one is opening an attention getter. You must address your boss by his first name. If you were my boss, Atta, and I want to call your attention and say, Mr. Atta, or Mr. Iharo, may I? Then I begin to question. Let's go down. So that's what the opening or attention getter.
Okay.
He said this step, addresses the individual. He said it addresses the individual. So Mr. Atta, and then you are kind of, hey, this guy calling me by my first name. What's going on? And then you get his attention. Call the boss by his personal name respectfully. That is number one of the 5-step assertive statement process. Then number two, state your concern. Be courageous enough to state your concern in a direct manner while owning your emotions about it. Keep your emotions about what the situation is, but state the concern.
But is that easy here? The plane is taking a wrong move, the pilot is making a mistake here, and the co-pilot is saying that, look, death is imminent. His emotion rises, and he has to shout quickly, hey, God, we know even in biblical terms, we saw where they wake the Messiah and say, Master, you sleep, while we perish. They shout at him. The plane is about falling off the sky, and you want to just keep your emotion and be gentle. That time you can't be gentle again.
Training can do that for you.
Okay.
You'll be amazed. Training can do that for you. Well, when I started having my first feel on the keyboard, learning to play piano, I do play, by the way. Getting my fingers to rest on the keys, I was going to swear that it was totally impossible, because my fingers were always that way. Wouldn't get down to sit on the keys.
They were all for takeoff, not for landing.
not for landing. But by practice over time, I still can't explain what happened. I found the fingers lying where they should be and moving the way they should move. So human nature is unbelievable and amazing. Training, we do that. Take out the emotion while you make the point clearly. But let's move on.
Okay.
Number 3, state the problem as you see it. Be courageous enough to state the problem clearly and unequivocally. Let's move quickly to clip 7, please. Are we there? Correct. So we are continuing with the 5-step assertive statement process. It continues. Number 4 is state a solution. So you're not going to be questioning your boss just for the sake of querying his order, but then you're going to be giving him
solution.
What you think
this is wrong. I think we should do this immediately.
That's correct. So suggest a solution to the problem you stated in 3 above. All right. Number 5, obtain agreement or buy-in. Inquire from your boss if your suggestion in 4 above agrees with him, and press for an answer. So what these 5 steps are saying to you is that when you go through this process of respectfully engaging your boss that has given you a wrong order, and then you get him to buy in at the end of the day in the new solution you prefer, you've already won. You've already gotten him, and he has already succumbed to the superiority of your idea. And in that way, he remains respected, and he respects you also, and you work as a team and deliver result. And in aviation, it simply means you fly your passengers safely to their destination. Let's take a look at that photograph of United Airlines, that awesome and wonderful aircraft that needlessly, crashed. That's the airplane that needlessly crashed on that fateful day.
But who do we blame for this one now? We can't blame anyone.
The pilot was blamed because the story went on that he survived, and he was really a broken man, and he lost his first officer, lost his flight engineer, but he survived. And there was a time that memorial was being done for those that died, and he showed up. He was described as a broken man. His license was withdrawn for life. He was never to fly again, and that he was held responsible, even though he received some accolades for his decision not to land. It was described as prudent, because the green light that should tell him that
wasn't telling.
the green light that should tell him that the undercarriage had, lowered and locked didn't show. So it might have lowered but was not locked. And in that case, if you touch down, it collapses, and there will be a crash and fire that will ultimately consume everyone in the airplane. So he took.
But finally, how did he land at the end?
No, he didn't land. He lost, in the process of diagnosing and running around the circle.
When the
fuel finished, and then he was now, hoping that he would make it to the runway, and zeroed in and running as fast as he could to see if he could get the runway. Exhaustion took place. His two engines flamed out, and he had no more power to sustain the airplane. But luckily, where they fell, he didn't have buildings on the path, and he didn't have strong, heavy trees. They were shrubs. And so the hard heat on the ground was what killed them, and there was no fuel on board.
Okay,
so there was no fire. Yes, you see that. And so it was a hard heat. And of course, trust a few people when you ask them to brace, like holding down in the way that to take impact. A lot of people don't obey these instructions. They would rather be screaming and shouting. Some would even open up their seatbelt and want to be running from one end to the other, in the process risking their lives. But if you have yourself strapped down and you brace according to instruction and wait for the hard heat on the ground, the likelihood is that you're going to survive, and you probably won't be hurt. And if you're lucky, there's no fire. The plane will come to a stop somehow, somewhere, and a lot of you will be well. But he was anyway held responsible because he did one right, took a good decision to have aborted the landing, but didn't monitor. He got carried away by his so-called diagnosis, and didn't take a look at his instrument. Neither did his own co-pilot. Everybody was all, buried in what's wrong with this landing gear? I mean, is it locked or not locked, and all that, And somebody should have been checking, So, but anyway, he was held responsible, and his license was taken away for life, and he was a broken man. And then, of course, he lost his colleagues and survived, and then life was not good for him. And a few years after, he too died. He's late now, and that's the situation. But what's the message in this whole thing? The message in this whole thing is the fact that cockpit or crew resource management is now something that is needed in not just in aviation, in every facet of our lives. It is missing in this nation at the moment. I go to offices, I see the way bosses shout at subordinates, intelligent subordinates that can help them do better, but they don't want to listen to anyone. Big-headed, making mistakes that are retrogressing this nation, and we need to have this training, not just in the aviation sector, but in all sectors, including in ITV.
Okay, thank you. What are we looking at for next week?
Part two. Part two of this cockpit resource management will highlight examples of crashes, about 4 or 5 of them that I want to bring to viewers in summary, to see what went wrong and what should have happened had the crew had this CRM training. If they had CRM training, they would have done things better, and those crashes would not have taken place. So it's an awesome course that, if anyone is listening there, our awesome Minister Sirika, if you're listening, we need this training even in the Ministry of Aviation, in all the ministries in this federation. We need to have people communicate better and respectfully. Subordinates need to be respected. There are a lot of intelligent subordinates, and bosses must lend their ears to corrections. We are not infallible. We are all fallible beings. Only God is infallible. And so it follows that if a subordinate, is trained to observe that his boss or her boss is making a mistake, there should be a system that guarantees safety for him or her. To say to our boss, I think something's wrong here. Can we take another look at this?
Okay, wait till next week. We're talking about that.
Oh yeah, that's right. So that's it for today. So my dear viewers, next week we'll do part 2, and you'll see some examples, and after that we'll move to another brand new series.
Thank you very much. have a wonderful June 12 week.
Oh, and you too.
Have a June 12 week.
You too.
Okay, thank you very much. Next week, Monday, we'll be discussing with our aviation freaks, Mr. Godwin Enike. We'll be looking at that here. But somehow, like what he said, our organizations and family even needs to learn when it comes to resource management and how to communicate daddy, mommy, children, and even those hanging around the family or the compound or the neighborhood. We'll take a break. When we return from the break, the program this morning on ITV, I will continue. We will be looking at the June 12th presidential declaration.